Hi Charlie. Today is the 6th day of my polling video experiment on YouTube, where I discussed the poll that I posted on LinkedIn last week that closed this morning, and just talk about some of my additional thoughts about the topic, because on LinkedIn I usually just post a list of statistics about that topic, not really diving into a full-blown discussion of it. So I like using YouTube to sort of expand on my thoughts on the issue. And last week's issue, i.e. today's video topic, is a very interesting one that has been controversial for a long time, and that is, will the USA ever repay its debt? There were 3 answer choices: yes, no, and maybe. And before I reveal the results, I'd like to preface by saying that the USA has had significant amounts of debt in the past. For instance, the USA went into debt during the Civil War so the Union Army could fund the war effort, and they struggled for a while to repay that debt after the war ended and economic prosperity was theoretically reestablished. So the USA having debt is nothing new in the grand history of the United States, but the level of debt that the United States is in is historically unprecedented. So, unsurprisingly, only 1% of my voters said yes, the USA will repay its debt, 87% said no, the USA will not repay its debt, and 12% of my voters said, maybe the USA will repay its debt. I wouldn't say that's a great vote of confidence, but I'd also like to say that only 84 people voted on that poll, and the voting pool was certainly not a representative sample of the entire United States population, or even the decision makers whose decisions actually impact whether we pay down the principal part of the debt, or if we just slap a band-aid on the problem by paying the interest every year and hoping that the next administration takes care of the principal. So onto the statistics about the USA's debt. The US national debt is now $36.2 trillion. That is just an inconceivable amount of money. Can you imagine a household going into that much debt, even if they're spending like crazy on their credit cards? It's an absolutely massive number. And in 2024, the US deficit increased by $1.8 trillion, which means that our debt had to increase by that much so that we could pay all of our expenses. And in 2024, the deficit was 6% of US GDP, which basically means that the US was spending 6% more money than it was earning via tax revenue and other forms of non-debt income. In 2025, it will cost the US government $1.2 trillion to finance its debt, aka pay the probably minimum amount of interest on it, but that's still a massive amount of money. And it's also about 3% of the US budget, so this is a budget line item that continues to grow with every passing year. And 3% might not seem like much, but what if in 10 years we're paying 10% of our tax revenue for interest on this debt, money that we used in the past to pay our past bills, but that is now kind of draining the resources that we have in the future to deal with whatever problems the future holds. And over the last 3 months, that is October to December of 2024, the US government spent $710.9 billion more than it earned. Now, I'm sure there are so many reasons why the USA is currently spending significantly more than it earns. It has a lot of programs that it needs to fund in order to, protect Americans and maintain their expected standard of living, have that social safety net in case something goes wrong, that you can at least try to get back on your feet. But at the same time, any household that's in this much debt, whether from credit cards or a home mortgage or car payments, is generally in trouble, right? Like, they would probably be meeting with a financial advisor. That financial advisor would be giving them suggestions on how to decrease their debt load and start paying it off a bit more efficiently. But it doesn't seem like the United States is necessarily taking that approach. And obviously, Charlie, you and I are not policymakers in any way, shape, or form. Between the two of us, we don't even have a college degree yet. Hopefully that will change in a few months. But we can't make these decisions right now, and even if we had that decision-making power, we probably wouldn't be making the best decisions. But this is definitely an issue that's going to have to be resolved in the future, and for everyone's sake, I hope that it is resolved. I'm just not really seeing a path toward a resolution right now. But if you do know, Charlie, of any way to resolve the U.S. debt issue, please let us know. I'm sure the new cohort of policymakers in the White House would appreciate any suggestions from you, Charlie. Anyway, thank you for listening to my spiel about the U.S. government debt, and stay tuned tomorrow for my 7th polling analysis. Bye!